Tonight, kind, wonderful and brilliant. Tributes flow for Michael Mosley. Also tonight, Coles puts a cap on egg purchases after the discovery of bird flu at another Victorian farm. King's birthday honours for 130 Victorians, but the inclusion of Daniel Andrews cops criticism. And a decade cold. Melbourne marks 10 years of the big freeze at the MCG to fight MND. Good evening, Tamara Oudyn with ABC News. There's been an outpouring of grief and love for TV presenter and diet guru Michael Mosley. He's being remembered as an adventurous man who was kind and funny. His body was found on the Greek island of Symi, and it's now been revealed that it was a TV crew filming on the island who made the tragic find.
It was a Greek TV crew filming the island of Symi from on board a boat that spotted a figure on a rocky hill.
And you can clearly see there is a man lying down with his hand on his belly, a watch, and on his other hand he has his bag.
After 4 days of searching by air, land and sea for Dr. Michael Mosley, a grim discovery.
I'm really sorry for the family. I'm sorry that I'm the one who found it. Sorry.
A statement from his wife, Dr. Claire Bailey Mosley, confirming the worst. It is devastating to have lost Michael, my wonderful, funny, kind and brilliant husband. He did an incredible climb, took the wrong route and collapsed. We're taking comfort in the fact that he so very nearly made it. He was found metres from Agia Marina Beach, around an area where search and rescue teams, locals and tourists alike, had been scouring. Police believe he had been dead for a number of days. Michael Mosley left his wife from St Nicholas Beach, setting off for a walk, but never returned. 20 minutes later, he was spotted on CCTV in the nearby town of Peddi. He was then seen again at the marina, heading northeast. The diet doctor is being remembered as a loving man.
People will remember him, people will smile. Anyone who met Mike will always smile because he was such a loving, kind, generous person.
Now, the diet I'm about to go on...
Following a diabetes diagnosis, Michael Mosley popularised intermittent fasting with his 5-2 diet.
And it's also good for my heart and lungs.
But he was best known for entertaining audiences and inspiring people to live a happier and healthier life.
The number of people who queue up at his events, not to get signed copies of his books, but to say thank you, I followed your advice and it made a huge difference to me.
The body of the 67-year-old has been transferred to the neighbouring island of Rhodes, with a coroner to determine the exact cause of his death. A tragic end for his 4 children and wife of more than 35 years and the thousands of people whose lives he changed. Rani Heyman, ABC News.
Just 24 hours after celebrating the return of 4 Israeli hostages, Benjamin Netanyahu's grip on power has been dealt a blow. Key Minister Benny Gantz has quit the war cabinet, accusing Netanyahu of putting his own political survival ahead of the war. The move has deepened divisions within Israel's leadership, and anger is growing over the direction of the conflict.
Escorted across the Gaza beach, the moment freedom was in sight for 4 Israeli hostages. The Defence Forces releasing more images of their high-stakes rescue mission. But the celebration for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was short-lived. Hours after the successful rescue, Benny Gantz, a key minister in his 3-person war cabinet, dramatically quit over the handling of the war.
Netanyahu is preventing us from advancing towards true victory. I am leaving the government today with a heavy heart.
The former defence minister has repeatedly clashed with Benjamin Netanyahu over post-war plans and had issued him with an ultimatum. He's accused Netanyahu of putting his political survival before the lives of hostages and prolonging the war.
I won't promise you an easy and quick victory. You deserve more than empty promises, but the State of Israel can and must achieve true victory.
He's calling on Netanyahu to name a date for an early election and let Israeli citizens decide. Anger within Israel over the war has been boiling for months, with hundreds of thousands taking their fury to the streets.
Netanyahu is trying to appear large and in charge now. If he wants to do that, then he might have to start playing by the United States rules rather than by his own personal ambition, his political gain, which has clearly been driving him until now.
Netanyahu posted on social media appealing to Gantz to stay on, saying, "Benny, this is not the time to abandon the battle. This is the time to join forces."
Benny Gantz's departure won't topple the government, but it leaves the door open for extremist coalition members to push their agenda of continuing the war and to complete Israeli occupation of Gaza. And it's likely to lead the US to taking a more active role in moderating the trajectory of this war and pushing for a ceasefire. Alison Horn, ABC News, Jerusalem.
Back home now, and the Prime Minister is confident Australia can meet its 2030 emissions reduction target after the Coalition cast doubts on the commitment. Anthony Albanese has ramped up the government's attack on the opposition after it announced plans to dump Australia's short-term climate plans if it wins the election. Stephanie Boris reports from Canberra.
Happy King's Birthday weekend, everyone.
A right royal bollocking.
Peter Dutton is walking away from climate action.
The Prime Minister taking aim at the Coalition over its plans to dump some of Australia's climate policies.
You can't shape the future if you're afraid of it.
Nearly 200 countries signed the Paris Agreement, a commitment to keep global warming below 2 degrees. Australia promised by 2030 it would reduce emissions by 43%, but the opposition says that's not possible under a Labor or Liberal government.
You need to come clean with the Australian people on that.
Australia's climate watchdog says the government is close but not on track to meet its 2030 target. The Prime Minister's pointed to new projects and policies he says will boost the use of renewables.
I'm very confident not only that we can get there, but importantly that we must get there.
It's looking pretty tough, to be honest. I think they're the right sorts of policies, but the problem has been that they haven't been strong enough and tight enough to absolutely drive towards the 2030 target.
Further down the track, the Coalition insists net zero by 2050 is achievable, but there's no detail on what the party's short-term plan is.
While, of course, I won't be announcing the Coalition's climate and energy policy today, what I can tell you when it comes to targets, we won't be plucking a number out of thin air.
If the Coalition submits a less ambitious 2030 target, Australia would be the first country to do so under the Paris Agreement.
Weakening our 2030 target would be a slap in the face of the spirit and intent of the Paris Agreement, and to our neighbours in the Pacific. It would also endanger us in terms of global trade and diplomatic arrangements, but not necessarily have any punishment within the Paris Agreement.
Environmental benefits aside, the point of having targets is to set incentives and create certainty for investors with hundreds of billions of dollars to spend on whatever replaces coal. Another argument over targets sows doubt among investors who'll be weighing up decisions well beyond the next election. Stephanie Boris, ABC News, Canberra.
Victoria's bird flu outbreak has spread to a 5th farm, prompting fears of nationwide egg shortages and price increases. Coles has now put a purchase limit on eggs, and while other supermarkets aren't planning to follow suit, some businesses are already feeling the pinch.
The cakes have been rising at this Melbourne cafe in St Kilda for more than 40 years, but lately costs have been rising too, especially for eggs.
We've had 2 price increases in the last, I think, 4 to 6 months. And this time, I think the excuse was because of the bird flu.
Which has now been detected at 5 Victorian poultry farms.
Frankly, it would have been a lot more if the Victorian government, supported by the Commonwealth, hadn't moved as quickly as they had.
Almost 500,000 chickens have been destroyed. The Victorian Farmers Federation says it's reduced supply by about 450,000 eggs a day. That's prompted Coles to introduce limits on egg purchases to 2 dozen per person in every state but Western Australia.
If you're close to where the farms are, then you're going to be short of eggs. But as you move further out, it becomes less of a problem.
There are no plans from Woolworths, Aldi or major IGAs to introduce limits. The industry hopes they won't have to. Farms have implemented strict quarantine measures to stop the spread.
And they're doing a lot of testing on the farms in the area, so that we're quite confident that those farms that don't have the disease don't have the disease.
Authorities say the spread of bird flu to humans is extremely rare. Victoria has recorded one case this year in a returned traveller who's since fully recovered. It wasn't related to the farm outbreaks here, and authorities are reassuring consumers any eggs they do buy will be safe to consume. Consumers are most concerned about possible cost increases.
I probably wouldn't buy them as often.
They definitely go up too much, I guess.
Probably just give it a break for a while.
The advice is to shop around. Cyan Valance, ABC News, Melbourne.
The marking of the King's birthday long weekend has served as motivation for vandals to target a statue of King George V in Melbourne. Police were called to King's Domain in the CBD this morning to find the statue beheaded and graffitied. A video posted to social media overnight shows a person dressed in high vis removing the statue's head with a saw and covering what was left in red paint. It's the latest attack on monuments in Melbourne. Around Australia Day, a statue of Captain James Cook in St Kilda was cut down, while one of Queen Victoria in the CBD was splashed with red paint. Police say they're investigating last night's attack. Well, from artists and sporting legends to public servants and swimming teachers, more than 700 people have been recognised for their service in this year's King's Birthday Honours list. For the fourth year in a row, pandemic-era leaders have also been given a nod. Victoria Pengilly reports.
Their skills vary, but these Australians are truly remarkable. Among those recognised in this year's King's Honours, Gamilaroi chef Auntie Beryl Van Oplu from Redfern in Sydney. A culinary master, her knowledge of native bush tucker is used across the world.
You know, I'm 81 now and I think it's a great honour to have that, and the people that have nominated me, I thank them very much.
More than 700 people were honoured on this year's roll, including Perth youth worker Pat Ryan, who's helping young people heal by putting wheels in motion.
We aim to dismantle young people's disadvantage so that they can pursue a future with hope.
6 Australians were awarded the top honour, the Companion of the Order of Australia. Former COVID-era Labor Premiers Mark McGowan and Daniel Andrews also given the nod for their leadership, as well as this South Australian epidemiologist for her work improving vaccination rates in remote communities.
I'm thrilled that public health has also been recognised. Normally we're behind the scenes, nobody knows who we are. Good public health means you shouldn't notice us.
In Queensland, rock legend and former Powderfinger player John Collins is being recognised for his work off-stage, supporting struggling artists.
Hey mate.
How are you?
Good, how are you? The costs have gone through the roof for smaller venues. That sort of natural progression from people going to see young artists was broken through COVID, and I don't think it's come back yet.
For the family of former AFL football legend John Devine, pride and sadness at his posthumous award.
He really valued the contribution he made to the people that he coached. And I know he took a lot of pride in seeing those people turn into successful people in the community, and hopefully he had a little bit of a role to play in that.
From quiet achievers like women's community organiser Margaret Finlaker-Smith, to big personalities like comedian Hamish Blake, children's entertainer Jimmy Giggle, and cricket great Glenn McGrath.
Had a pat on the back.
There's a raft of homegrown talent. Victoria Pengilly, ABC News.
As mentioned there, the former Premier Daniel Andrews was one of 6 to be awarded the top honour, and that's been met with both praise and criticism. The state government has congratulated him, saying that as Premier for 9 years, he led the state through difficult times, including the pandemic. But others say he doesn't deserve the award because of his handling of COVID lockdowns, the cancellation of the Commonwealth Games and soaring state debt.
They have set a new standard for how these awards are going to be allocated. In other words, we're going to reward failure.
In total, 135 Victorians have been recognised this year, and tying them together is their fight for justice and equality and a vision for bettering society.
After 3 premierships, Bashir Hooli's teammates now wear a different type of uniform at the Islamic College of Sport.
To see our young generation excel and become the best versions of themselves is very rewarding.
For over a decade, he's been working to empower Muslim youth through sports.
You can always contribute.
That mission has been recognised with a Medal of the Order of Australia.
I was a teenager. What kept me off the streets and, I guess, making the right decisions is my involvement in sport.
Sport's ability to unify is not lost on ex-AFL player Jason Ball.
I think sport is such a powerful force in Australia. It's a cultural juggernaut.
Since coming out in the league in 2012, he's founded the Pride Cup.
I feel proud, I feel humbled, and I'm just going to keep doing it.
Human rights leader and former Supreme Court Justice Kevin Bell has also been recognised.
You'll have to forgive me, thinking about it makes me feel emotional.
He was one of the first commissioners on Victoria's truth-telling inquiry about the impacts of colonisation.
It was never easier to learn about First Peoples in Australia and indeed in the world than it is now.
Professor Elizabeth Hartland has been finding ways to enhance immunity, including groundbreaking work in fighting Legionnaire's disease.
We're not going to make any difference unless we can do the research that will advance better treatments, better vaccines and better outcomes.
Also awarded a Member of the Order is paediatrician and researcher Professor Sharon Goldfeld, who's working to reduce inequities for children.
There's just moments in life where you feel truly humbled, and this was kind of one of them. What would be really cool is if, by getting this award, the issues can be more seen and we can be more effective.
The resounding message shared between those honoured. Mietta Adams, ABC News, Melbourne.
Coming up on 7:30 with Laura Tingle, the regional city predicted to run out of water within 2 years.
We do have a situation here where we are running out of time.
I started this business from nothing. Why would you want to put a desalination plant in an aquaculture zone?
We're at D-Day here. We don't have the luxury of time, and the alternative is delay will mean disaster.
Also, I'll speak to former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull.
Gains by far-right parties in EU elections have prompted a bruised French President Emmanuel Macron to call a snap national election. In what's being viewed as a gamble to re-establish his authority, Macron labelled the rise of nationalism a danger to Europe, calling French citizens to the ballot box just weeks out from the Paris Olympics.
A resounding vote in favour of the far right in France. In a high-risk gamble that could see his party humbled again, Emmanuel Macron has dissolved the French Parliament and called a snap election for just weeks before the Paris Olympics.
This is a situation that I cannot come to terms with. The rise of nationalists, of demagogues, is a danger for our nation.
Far-right opposition leader Marine Le Pen celebrating her party's surge at the ballot box. She's the big winner today and could well repeat that success in a few weeks.
We are ready to exercise power if the French place their trust in us during the future legislative elections.
But signs that Le Pen's success has also re-energised her opponents, hundreds protesting her party's result in central Paris.
I think there's generally a feeling of disquiet and of sadness at the results of this vote here.
In the last French election 2 years ago, Emmanuel Macron retained government with almost 60% of the vote. But these European elections appear to show that support for the far-right opposition in France has since grown.
The far right also doing well in other major European countries. They made big gains in Germany and Spain too. But that wasn't true everywhere, the political centre maintaining its majority in the EU Parliament.
Together with others, we will build a bastion against the extremes from the left and from the right. We will stop them.
The elections determine the makeup of European Parliament for the next 5 years, and the far-right's increased number of seats could make it harder to agree on policies for nearly 500 million Europeans. Michelle Rimmer, ABC News.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been sworn in for her historic third term in office. Thousands attended the ceremony, which took place at the Presidential Palace in New Delhi. Cheers erupted from the crowd when he stepped up to the podium to make his pledge. It's the first time Modi has been forced to govern in a power-sharing arrangement after his BJP party failed to secure an absolute majority in recent elections. Voters punished his party over rising unemployment and food prices. 2 people have been injured in a paraglider crash near Castlemaine. Police and emergency services rushed to a farm near the Calder Freeway at Elphinston at about 11 o'clock this morning, where they found a 70-year-old man and a 69-year-old woman with non-life-threatening injuries. They were treated at the scene before the woman was flown to the Alfred Hospital for treatment, while the man was taken by ambulance to Bendigo. A new train station could be built under Melbourne's Bourke Street to service a major urban renewal project west of the CBD. The state government has announced a preferred possible rail route and 3 new stations as part of the Fisherman's Bend Innovation Precinct, which is set to house 80,000 residents by 2050. The new underground Docklands station would be built next to Marvel Stadium, while other stations would open at Fisherman's Bend and the Sandridge Precinct. Planning controls are being put in place now that the preferred Melbourne Metro 2 route has been announced, despite it still being years away.
It's obviously got to be supported in future budgets, but the really important thing is making sure that we have the land set aside and the plans in place to be able to support that into the future.
High-profile veterans and the next generation of young swimmers are battling it out in Brisbane tonight for a spot on Australia's Olympic team for Paris. Some key finals are just about to start. Our sport reporter Amanda Shalala is there for us tonight and joins us now. Amanda, world record holder Ariarne Titmus is beginning her Olympic title defence. How's she looked in heats today?
Tamara, really good. Titmus is the favourite for tonight's women's 400 metres freestyle final and a very strong chance of defending her crown in Paris. Her main challenger tonight will be Lani Pallister, although she was several seconds slower in the heats. Now, Titmus says she even surprised herself with her heat swim and she managed to switch off in the second half of the race, although she admitted she has felt a little bit edgy coming into this meet.
If I just do what I know how to do, just not a heat swim, but for some reason at Olympic trials you just get way more nervous about everything, being safe on the start, not going to make it through, you know, that type of thing.
And there are plenty of big names in action tonight. Who are you going to be keeping an eye on?
The men's 400 metres freestyle final is going to be another blockbuster. We have the 2022 world champion, Elijah Winnington, coming up against the 2023 world champion, Sam Short. Australia has a decorated history in this event, so these men will be hoping to continue that tradition in Paris. In the men's 100 breaststroke, we saw Sam Williamson come very close to breaking a 15-year-old national record, so he'll be hoping to go faster tonight. And these are also the Paralympic trials, so Brendan Hall and Lakeisha Patterson are a couple of the big names in action tonight in their respective 400 free finals.
Amanda Shalala in Brisbane, thank you. Collingwood has moved into the AFL's top 8 after claiming honours in this year's King's Birthday clash against Melbourne, defeating the D's by 38 points. For the 10th year, fans made the walk to the MCG in support of Fight MND's Big Freeze.
A sea of support for the Danaher family as the Big Freeze enters double digits.
Seeing Dad smile up at the top, I'm really emotional actually. It's just been an amazing day.
Neil took his usual spot as this year's batch of sliders took the plunge into the icy water. The costumes once again colourful, musicians the alter ego of many, but the message remaining the same.
Where the whole country just comes together and, you know, rallies for him and so many families that are going through this. Beanies, everyone!
Thousands of Demons faithful made the trek to the G from Federation Square. Among those, Neil's brother Terry.
It's just getting bigger, but more importantly, we just got to find a cure for this damn thing.
Coming off a 92-point loss to Fremantle the round prior, Melbourne were hoping for a much better performance in the King's Birthday clash, but it was more of the same to start. Nathan Kruger kicking his first AFL goal in 407 days as the Pies collected the first 3. Melbourne's uphill battle becoming steeper, with star Christian Petrarca needing to be subbed off after receiving a knock in the opening quarter. Needing something to get back into the contest, turnovers killed any momentum the Demons could muster as Collingwood stretched the lead to 27 points at the main break.
How about that for a finish from the big guy?
Steele Sidebottom showed off his hops as the Magpies soared.
He's got it all to do here, and he does.
Kysaiah Pickett added some spark with a highlight of his own, but there was little to celebrate for D's fans as the Pies ran away with it.
And then that just sums up the day for the D's.
Jack Crisp receiving the Neil Danaher Trophy for best on ground in his 227th consecutive AFL game, the second longest consecutive game streak in VFL-AFL history. Fraser Fife, ABC News.
And Carlton has moved into second place on the AFL ladder with a 26-point victory over rivals Essendon. In front of more than 88,000 fans at a packed MCG, the Blues took charge from the outset, breaking out to a 32-point lead at half-time. The Bombers rallied at times and closed the gap in the second half, but two late goals from Alex Chincotta extinguished their hopes. Carlton is now 9 wins and 4 losses for the season, 2 wins behind top of the table Sydney. Spaniard Carlos Alcaraz has won his first French Open title in a 4-hour, 5-set comeback against German Alexander Zverev.
All the Spanish players who have won this tournament and be able to put my name on that amazing list is...
The Melbourne Vixens have defeated the Mavericks by 19 goals in their second ever Melbourne Derby clash. A record Vixens home crowd of over 9,000 attended the crosstown rivalry. Kira Austin put in a player of the match performance, shooting 16 goals from 19 attempts in the 77-58 win. It puts the Vixens at the top of the Super Netball ladder. The Mavericks sit in 6th position. They'll play the Firebirds in Melbourne on Sunday, and the Vixens will face the Lightning on the Gold Coast. Time for the weather now. Here's Paul Higgins.
And Tamara, it's great to see something other than grey skies for the end of the long weekend today. A nice way to finish it all off. Not so nice this morning. Camping in the wilds, though. -1 at Benalla, Reedsdale, also at Bendigo. So it was very chilly. -5 on top of Mount Hotham. Cloud over parts of Gippsland, and a littlest cloud has been streaming in from the west. Despite that cloud, a north wind helped it get to 20 degrees in Mildura, Oyen and Walpia. 5.5 degrees first thing in Melbourne, then a high of 15.6 at 2:30 this afternoon, just as all those celebrities were sliding into the ice at the MCG. I've been told I should wear this. No, I won't. No, I'll put it back there. Let's see what's outside now. 13 degrees it is. Even Darwin's having some relatively cool mornings now. -2 in Canberra, 21 today in Adelaide, but it was cloudy there. Now, moisture with high-level cloud is being pushed our way along a pair of strong jet streams, and that's ahead of a cold front that's hiding there south of the Bight. That front will cross Victoria tomorrow morning, and these bunched-up isobars here shows it will be windy. A follow-up front tomorrow night will bring a much colder southwesterly wind, and we'll have some rain. We'll take a closer look at that in just a moment. Then mostly settled weather by Thursday. Tomorrow, Brisbane will be sunny and Sydney partly cloudy. Canberra's in for afternoon showers and a windy Hobart. Adelaide and Perth will have showers as well. Back home, scattered showers for most of the state with the heavier falls over the northern slopes of the ranges. Generally 5 to 15 millimetres of rain. It will be cloudy and windy, not as cold tonight, but on Wednesday morning, snow above 1,200 metres elevation. We'll have thunderstorms in the south tomorrow. Damaging wind gusts to 90 kilometres per hour in the Macedon and Otway ranges from later tonight, and the east tomorrow morning, up to 110 k's on the southern slopes. A north wind on the bay, 20 to 35 knots, turning westerly in the afternoon. Gales tomorrow in Port Phillip and all coastal waters. Strong winds on Western Port. We're in for a window-rattling night as that north wind becomes very strong. It's going to be with us in the morning, turning westerly in the afternoon. Showers or light rain from around 11 p.m, easing after lunch, 11 to 16 degrees in the city. Cloudy Wednesday, a few morning showers, 13. Thursday, a shower or 2 and just 12 degrees. Then a mix of sun and cloud on Friday. Tam.
Thank you, Paul. That's it for this evening's bulletin. Stay with us now for 7:30 with Laura Tingle.